on the Veterans Broadcast Network, this is Roll Call. What role did you play in your call to duty?
You're listening to Veterans Roll Call.
I'm Kenney DeCamp.
And I'm Nadine Noky.
Well, welcome one and all once again to Roll Call. I'm glad you're joining in with us, and tonight just might be the night for you to make sure you keep a pencil and paper handy. We've got some really good information you're going to be getting, and a couple more hotline numbers, etc. But we're sort of talking today, Nadine, about yesterday's tomorrow. What do you think that means?
I wrote it down twice this week now, and I haven't had time to elaborate or ask you, and I think it's perfect that it's on the show now, because yesterday's tomorrow, really I have no idea. The blast from the past, I have no idea. It's making people relevant from yesterday to tomorrow. I got nothing. What is it?
Having the veteran relative, that's true. It's where we were at yesterday, what we did in order to face that call to duty. And our presence and where we're at from yesterday is where we plan on going tomorrow. And part of what our show is going to be about today is not only a little bit about a special guest we have coming up, Kenri Wanner, who's a mental health expert, but we're going to be looking into how much the veteran world is changing, how much smaller it's getting. For instance, in 2019, there were 18.8 million veterans. 9.3 million of those veterans are 65 and older.
Wow.
So their yesterdays are long past. Their tomorrows are somewhat short-lived. And what we're finding out a lot is that there's still a lot of complications in your claims for disability. Today, I helped a friend of mine in his 60s, also late 60s, trying to get his disability claims. After filling out VALs on our website, he was able to find out he has 8 different causes of disability, and he's been denied for years. So one of the facts that I found out about that, too, is that that's been leading more and more to veteran suicides.
I am aware of that, and that people think when they hear veteran suicide, I think they think, a person my age, maybe in their 20s or 30s, but a high number of the veteran suicide is actually related to the older population. Am I correct?
Correct.
In saying that?
Correct. The largest group of suicides are over 55.
Yeah, that's something that I think needs to be brought up and discussed a little bit more, because I didn't know that until very recently when I read it, and I was very surprised, so much so that I remembered that fact. And
that's why I'm so proud to be involved with the National Institute for Veterans. That's actually our head of the radio program and VALs and our lobbying group that's being developed. One of the umbrella arms is the Radio Broadcast Network. But the Institute itself is quite unique. It has every level of military represented in it. Most of the organization is composed of disabled veterans and also from different countries. And there are corporations getting involved, contractors that provide services to military. We're going to be building this relationship with all of them more and more. The quote that was given to me is from the United States. It represents a promise that was made 156 years ago by President Abraham Lincoln. Anyone who served in the military will be taken care of. And our company, the National Institute for Veterans, has 4 separate functions, each with their own role that will help veterans. And tonight is interesting because we are going to be looking into mental health and the relationship that it has and how many of the claims come out towards the PTSD especially, the concept of anxiety disorders, depression, bipolar, the amount of stress that is now going on, and of course there's always substance abuse. To a friend of mine, I found out in Chicago that there are between 1,400 and 1,500 disability claims every month. And I then found out there are 31 people who rate the claims.
Wow. That's for nationally?
That's just Chicago.
Oh, Chicago. Oh, wow.
Just Chicago.
Wow, they've got a lot of work on their hands.
Yeah, a lot of work. And he also let me know that those raters, those people, are paid between $52,000 and $81,000 a year in order to find out if that claim's legit. And the biggest problem that we've been having is, first of all, it's complicated, which is why Mark, our COO, he was able to help put together a very unique program called VALS, which is the Veterans Appeal Legal Services. It's a program that actually provides and assists veterans in completing or appealing their disability claims.
With that many people or that many claims going to them every month, and I just can't see that they would do a thorough job. I mean, dividing 1,500 claims amongst 31 people is still quite a bit of work. I mean, and anybody that's looked at medical records or looked at your own medical records, what a job that is. And I'm glad that there are people working on it, but that seems like there's room for improvement there.
There's room for improvement, and 2 of them have been overturned by the VA structure itself in the national level. From what I read, I believe it was 16% of them got overturned from the claim being denied in Chicago and then overturned. I want to say it's really just amazing because with the 9.3 million veterans that are 65 and older right now, as of 2020, it's amazing that they're claiming that in 2045, just 25 years, the 18 million veterans are going to decline to about 12 million.
Wow, that's interesting.
And right now, for your purposes, 9% of women, 1.9 million women, are veterans out of the 18.8.
Huh.
I would have thought it was higher, but what we do see and what they are predicting, each year women veterans have been growing, and they do see that in the near future with the changes that's happening in the population of veterans, we're going to find more and more and more women involved with it.
Absolutely, and as more jobs become available to women in the military, there would probably be a likelihood of more women feeling incentivized to, one, join, but also with the changing demographic and the culture of the military, hopefully perhaps encourage more people to join and have a better culture and stay longer in, if that's something that they want to do or pursue.
Yep. Well, they're seeing that it's radically changing even within the ethnic diversity. So not only women, but there are more Hispanics, and there are more African Americans that are involved with us, involved with the whole concept of finally joining, because, you know, without the draft, everything has to be on a volunteer level, and that has been changing itself too. They say that the share of veterans who are Hispanic is expected to double from 8% to 16% over the next 20 years, which I find that's quite a large group of, but they're saying that, you know, Hispanics is the largest, fastest growing population of our country.
That makes sense.
Yeah. In a little while, though, we're going to be bringing on Kenri Wanner, and this lady really has impressed me. The more I've read about her, and a couple times I've talked on the phone with her, I'm just totally impressed. She's a 15-year veteran already, or actually I should say she's been involved with the military for 15 years, both active duty, Air National Guard, and currently she's a first sergeant in reserves, the Air Force Reserves. And there she has something to do with the maintenance squadron. I definitely want to find out what the maintenance squadron is all about. It says initially in her active duty she was with the security forces. And then it followed by saying that she had something to do with being a patrolman and a flight chief and a lead trainer. So I'm going to also be asking her a little bit about that. But why we've invited her tonight, because of the demographics that are changing, especially within the lack of claims for disability and also for the suicide growth. In 2001, there were 5,989 veteran suicides. In 2019, there were 6,261. Wow. Even though there's less veterans, there's more suicides. And again, it's the people that are over 55 that are the largest group of them. So this wonderful First Sergeant Kenri, she on her civilian side, she works as a sexual assault response coordinator for the U.S. Navy, as well as she has her own private practice where she focuses on the complex trauma of combat and also involved a lot with the military sexual assault, which has become a big thing even in Congress right now. I'm going to find out also about PACT. It's called the Patient Aligned Care Teams. And apparently the VA has been lining up mental health people to be in this PACT. I am going to find out from Kenri if that is extended out in the first choice concept and whether or not people like herself are able to become part of the PACT with the VA clinics in their area. So maybe at this time, Midge is going to help us. He's our good engineer over there. We'll be bringing Kenri in. I'll be asking her to say hi to everybody in a minute. And don't forget that tomorrow on Monday, you definitely want to tune in to our wonderful friend on the Veteran Broadcast Network named Patrick Scrogan. He was that unique helicopter pilot that unfortunately had a major crash, lost a lot, including one of his limbs, etc. And he's a public speaker now and a big health coach to a lot of people. And he's got his own show called Wounded But Not Broken. And it's very interesting to listen and find out about just what has been happening to so many people that were wounded, but who are coming back and fighting the good cause. Anyway, Kenri, are you there with us?
I am.
Hello.
Hey, how are you doing?
Oh, hey, how good to hear your voice. And I'm sure you heard my little setup of who you are.
I did, yes.
Good. So would you like to expand on it a little bit and clarify anything that I might be off on or something that you need to expand on? We've got about 2 minutes before we go cut to break, so give us a little quick clarification.
So, yes, I have been in the military going on for 15 years. February will be 15 years. I did active duty. I was in the Air National Guard and the Reserve. Most of my career was as security forces, and within security forces, I held those different roles, such as a patrolman, which is like your law enforcement. I was a flight chief, so I was in charge of the flight that would go out. I was an armorer, so I handled the weapons a lot. Also the lead trainer, so I helped train the different troops. Now I am a first sergeant over at the maintenance squadron, and we'll get a little bit more into what that is soon. And then I was previously a SARC, or a sexual assault response coordinator. A few years ago, I no longer hold that role, but it was something that was near and dear to my heart. And currently I am a mental health counselor, and I have my own private practice in Bradenton, Florida.
Excellent. We're coming right now up on the clock for a word from our good supporters that keep the Veteran Broadcast Company going. And we'll take it away, Midge. You can take it away. Roll Call will be right back after these messages.
My father was the best truck driver I've ever known in my life. Like a family tradition.
I'm a truck driver myself. I drove around the state with my cat.
To be the truck driver, you not just only see where you go, you see the world in the larger perspective.
This is a really good time to be in the trucking industry. The dispatchers get good loads for them. The equipment is very new, and then it's very reliable.
At GTS Transportation, we make dreams come true by employing truck drivers, dispatchers, mechanics, and many other occupations. Consider joining our rapidly expanding team where we put quality, human dignity, and respect back into the workforce. Contact us by visiting our website at gtscarrier.com or call us at 847-754-4667. That number again, 847-754-4667.
Dallas Corporation and Dallas Logistics, a proud supporter of the Veterans Radio broadcast for over 15 years. High-quality printing services and warehouse distribution have been our hallmark since 1985, serving Fortune 100 companies for over 35 years. Check us out at www.dallascorp.com.
Here we go. Here we go.
You're listening to Roll Call.
Every day. Sign my name on the dotted line.
Sign my name on the dotted line.
Here's your host, Kenney DeCamp.
All
I do is a double time.
Up the hill.
Up the hill.
Down the hill.
Down the hill.
On the hill.
On the hill.
Up the hill.
Up the hill.
Yeah, up the hill, down the hill, and thanks GTS Transportation and Dallas Corp for helping us keep alive and keep it rolling.
All right, and we're here with Kenri. How do we pronounce that? Wanner or Wanner?
It's Wanner.
All right, I just wanted to clarify, make sure I'm going to say your name right from here on out. It's really awesome. Thanks so much for being on the show today. I'm curious, has the mental health, is that something that you transitioned to from Stark into mental health? And do you still work with veterans when it comes to that part of their, as in military assault and mental health?
So I went to school for my master's degree in counseling psychology, and when I finished, I wasn't sure if I really wanted to right away go into counseling. So I was always really passionate about the military sexual trauma population. So I ended up getting a job, and I was doing that for a little bit, and I realized I'm doing a lot, but I'm not doing enough to help veterans. So I decided to go into and get my actual towards my license for mental health counseling and open up my own practice. So that's what I'm doing right now.
What do you think the biggest struggle that you've seen with mental health, especially for veterans? Is it the military sexual assault? Is it PTSD? Is it a combination? Or what's your input on that?
Honestly, a lot of the veterans that I've seen have complex trauma. And what complex trauma is trauma from childhood. And what we see is veterans, a lot of people go into the military because they want to get away from their homes. They want to get away from whatever it was that was, in their hometown, whether it was families or bullying or so on and so forth. So we actually see a lot of veterans who have something called complex trauma. So maybe they had childhood physical abuse or sexual abuse growing up or something like that. And then after that, we see a lot of PTSD, a combination of either combat or sexual trauma, a lot of sexual trauma in the male population, which you don't really, think about too often. You think when we think of military sexual trauma, we think, oh, it's only females, but there's so many male cases out there that just aren't reported. They're not coming forward. We're seeing a lot of that.
That's actually really interesting. I haven't really heard a lot of people or specialists talk about the traumas of people joining the military before, it'd be interesting possibly to examine or provide or create different programs of people, that when you get in the military, as most veterans know, they train you on everything, even like how to balance your own checkbook. But nobody really talks about the traumas or creating a positive mental health attitude while in the military. And I wonder if there's some room for improvement there.
There absolutely could be. And I'm sorry?
I was going to say, I'm like, what do you think about that? Or Kenney, do you have any thoughts on that? Like, that is an interesting point that you bring up that I don't think that gets talked about as often either. The two things is that, yes, there is trauma and people are trying to get away from a lot of times. I mean, a lot of people join the military early, and if you don't have anything to get away from, why not go to college or something like that? Not saying that's the case for everyone. And then in addition to, the other thing that we don't talk about much is definitely the male sexual assault trauma.
Sure. So, it's interesting because the military doesn't really talk about mental health, and what we see is when individuals who already are suffering from complex trauma, now they're going into the military, possibly going into combat, possibly, being a victim of sexual assault. So now it just compounds more onto what was already there. So, we are seeing people coming in with PTSD, and they say it's just from, I was in combat, I saw combat. We dig a little bit deeper, and it's like now we have all of these things that we have to work through. It's not just that combat. So the military is doing a really bad job of screening that and teaching people just how to work through those things, because we are there to get trained and to, to do the mission, but it's sometimes lacking on that other part.
And Kenri, what was it that made you decide to join the Air Force?
So my mom and dad were both Air Force. They were both crew chiefs, and they met over at Norton Air Force Base in California. So I always wanted to be in the military. My grandparents, cousins, the whole family's military. They did tell me, do not join security forces. And what did I do? I joined security forces. So.
That's a similar situation. My dad was in the Army, told me to join the Air Force, so I obviously didn't listen and joined the Army as well. So I think that, sometimes you have to say the opposite to your kids or something.
Yeah, and I had a father in the Navy and an aunt in the Army, and my dad always wanted me, if I was going to join, he was primarily Coast Guard, but during World War II, he was always on a naval ship. He was a coxswain that drove the landing barges. And he always told me what fun that would be if I got into it as well. And I told him I'm not even sure they have landing barges anymore, first of all. And I was in pre-med, and I didn't want to be on a ship in any of that kind of thing. Here's a statistic that I found very interesting, that in 2020, there were 1.7 million veterans being treated in the VA mental health service.
That's a huge percentage.
That's a huge 1.7 million out of the 18.8 million. Now, Terry, have you ever heard of the PACT, P-A-C-T?
I have heard something about it, but I'm not very, very familiar with it.
Okay, so that means that they haven't included you yet.
Nope.
Yeah, it's called the Patient Aligned Care Teams. That's what the PACT stands for. And it was created just a short while ago, I believe 2019, to try to have more of a cohesive working ethic with the veteran who was dealing with mental health. Mm-hmm. And I was under the impression that they were leading that team out into the civilian world as well, because so much of the veteran VA world now is gone to that first choice concept of being able to go to someone outside of a VA hospital, especially if you lived more than so many miles away. They're allowing that. But you're not a member of the PACT.
No, I'm not. Mm-mm.
Okay, well, I'm going to talk to somebody about that. When you work with these different veterans, is there an organization that supports you? Are there different groups or VSOs that help or, ask you to come in and take a look at somebody or do something?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm lucky enough to live in an area, Sarasota and Manatee counties in Florida. It's just wonderful for veterans. There's so many wonderful nonprofits here. I'm involved with quite a few of them. There's one particular one that sticks out. It's called Operation Rubik's, and that's like a Rubik's Cube. So Operation Rubik's. They actually allow me to see veterans who have served at least 6 months of active duty, who have a DD-214 and have either gotten a general or honorable discharge. I can see them for free. So they can get, if they wanted to do trauma work or work on anxiety or depression or anything like that, they're able to come see me because of Operation Rubik's. So Operation Rubik's also allows veterans who are in need to go to different type of modalities to really get healing. So things such as like Reiki or massage therapy or sacral-cranial massages, just different types of things. Operation Rubik's helps pay these providers so veterans are able to go for free.
That's really awesome. Are they able to do it in person and through remote, like video counseling with you, or is it only local at this time?
So I prefer to do, and I do in-person and telehealth. I would be able to see pretty much anybody in the state of Florida for mental health. However, I prefer in-person, and I know for Operation Rubik's, from my understanding, and I could be completely wrong, is they take care of Manatee County and Sarasota County veterans. I could be completely wrong on that. I would have to double check. But so, if you're in the area, in person is great. I get it. COVID's happening. So some people don't want to come in person. So that's why I do provide telehealth as well.
For PTSD specifically, when you're working with these veterans, I believe the VA, they claim that a lot of the PTSD claims are false, and they generally, a lot of people have to fight to get those claims approved. What is your take on that, and do you think that most of that PTSD that veterans are suffering from is legitimate, and perhaps that might be causing some kind of strife and possible assisting with that suicide rate, and not in the best terms, considering if someone doesn't believe you, it's really hard to feel like someone's listening.
Yeah, so, obviously there's going to be those people out there who are going to try to take advantage of the system. I mean, it's out there, it happens, and it's unfortunate for the people who are really suffering. But I think the VA also is just trying to say no to everybody because they want to save a buck or two. It's sad. We have people coming in all the time. I've seen clients who aren't able to get those PTSD ratings, who clearly have PTSD. However, like I had said earlier, some of them may be prior, so they won't be able to get that because it was prior unless, it was affected some way, some shape or form to their enlistment. But it is unfortunate because the VA, they're only hiring certain counselors. They're looking for specific credentialing, so they're not even bringing in people. They're disqualifying quite a few very eligible people that could be helping them out to work at the VA. For myself, for instance, I could never work at the VA or for the military because the school that I went to doesn't have a certain credentialing, which the state that I went to school in, it wasn't required. And had I known that, I would have went to a school that had this credentialing. So I can't take TRICARE. I'm not allowed to take TRICARE. I can never work for the military as a mental health counselor or for the VA because my school didn't have what's called a KCREP certification. So now the military, TRICARE, and the VA is missing out on thousands of more than qualified professional mental health counselors because they want to have this standard that wasn't required, years ago. So it's unfortunate that the VA is doing this. You know, the military, when they say, oh, we're working on the mental health is so important, yet they're doing things like this, like not taking care of the veterans and not bringing in these thousands of qualified people who would love to work for these systems but can't.
Yeah, exactly. We'll be right back after this brief message.
Your mama, your brother, your daddy, your brother, your sister, your cat, dog was home when you left. You're right. And that's the reason you left. You're right. Hello.
You're listening to Veterans Roll Call, and we'll be right back after these messages.
Attention, looking for semi-drivers nationwide. GTS Transportation of Burr Ridge, Illinois is looking to hire or partner with experienced CDL holders in every state. If you are going to drive, why not drive for the best? Whether you are driving solo, as a team, or as an owner-operator, GTS is looking to add you to their rapidly growing company. Become part of one of the most respected, driver-friendly, and successful transportation companies in America, where drivers are treated as royalty. Contact us at gtscarrier.com. Again, gtscarrier.com. Or call us at 847-754-4667. That number again, 847-754-4667. We would love to help you, which in turn helps everyone. GTS is an equal opportunity employer.
Dallas Corporation and Dallas Logistics, a proud supporter of the Veterans Radio broadcast for over 15 years. High-quality printing services and warehouse distribution have been our hallmark since 1985, serving Fortune 100 companies for over 35 years. Check us out at www.dallascorp.com.
You're listening to Roll Call. Here's your host, Nadine Noky.
We're always ready for the call. We place our trust in thee.
Welcome back. I am here with Carrie. We're talking about military mental health, and before the break, she was talking about how there are lots of accredited people that would love to work with veterans and the VA system, but the specific accreditation that the VA might require, they don't have, or there's certain criteria that they're not qualified to help veterans, which I think is also, this show is really awesome, and I'm actually keeping a log of a lot of these topics that we talk about and things that I want to go back and address and go into further. And you were talking, Carrie, about other alternative medicines and things like that, and Operation Rubik's also offers this, like Reiki and Reiki. I was like, okay, obviously I'm naive and I have no idea. What is that, and is there other things that you've noticed that help veterans that might not be as traditional as compared to just general counseling?
Sure. So I can try to explain it the best I can. My verbiage is probably very off. So it's a type of like Eastern medicine that uses energy work. And you would have a Reiki master who is trained. They go through all this schooling, and they are, I guess you would call it a conduit between the universe and yourself. And what they're doing is pulling positive energy, I believe, from the universe and passing it through to the person. And vice versa, pulling out the bad energy and bringing it back in the universe. I've actually done it. I have a standing session that I do once a week, and at first I was like, I don't know if this is going to work. And let me tell you, wow, I feel amazing afterwards. And maybe it's that placebo effect, but who cares, because I feel great after. And until the next week.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
It's all about placebo effects, and even if it's something crazy as that, if it helps veterans, if it helps you feel good, and it does no harm, and I think people should pursue it. That sounds awesome. I think I might have to give that a try. Have you tried that, Kenney?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead. Okay. Are you aware of any of the mobile apps or internet sites that help through free health and wellness concept?
You know, I don't know them off the top of my head, but I actually do have a list of probably 50 of them, and I can get that to you when you need it, but I on my computer and literally not off the top of my head right now, unfortunately.
I shouldn't have jumped. Well, because one of them is when we were just talking a little bit, and one of the biggest things that has happened, like you said, from childhood trauma all the way up from the war trauma, combat trauma, and in my case, medical trauma, seeing so much of so many young people, especially pretty much destroyed when I was back in my Vietnam days. But one of them is called the PTSD Coach, and you literally just go to your app store, and it's free, and you can be able to download this onto your phone. And apparently there's some sort of coaching that goes on for you if you are having one of your rough times and you can't get to Carrie's office quick enough. So I thought that was good. Another one is called the Mindfulness Coach. And that one, it helps reduce stress or anxiety and helps you to manage pain. I think the one that has a lot of hope for a lot of people is called Virtual Hope Box, and it's an app that gives you the ability for coping, relaxation, and positive thinking. So those are just three of them that, like you said, there's quite a few out there that can help, and the majority of them are also free. So I think people should look into those a little bit more, and usually I give a phone number away as well on one of my shows, and today's phone number I think would be wise for a lot of people to have. It's a VA phone number. It's a hotline, and it's the Veterans Affairs hotline at the White House. So for those of you who want to try to have even a stronger contact, the VA White House hotline is 855-948-2311, and see if they could be any help to you, because we recently saw another statistic that there are about 75% of the veterans who apply for disability. 75% of them are either making appeals or trying to make upgrades, and the shocking statistic that comes out of that is that 80% of them are usually denied on that first-time basis and sometimes carried through. Like I said, my friend out in California has been denied for about 8 years, though he's got multiple situations, and quite a few of them happened because of his time in Vietnam and what he did on an aircraft carrier over and over.
And coming back to that, for PTSD specifically, do you think there's also, I don't know if you've seen clients and patients with this, that they might be suffering from PTSD and not even realize it? And if so, what are the symptoms that somebody might be experiencing related to PTSD that they don't even know possibly what's happening?
Oh, yeah. I've had plenty of clients come in and just not realize, this is PTSD, this is what's going on, thinking it's just anxiety or it's just depression or something along those lines. Trauma can also look not just like PTSD. It can look like bipolar disorder. It can look like borderline personality. It can look like a lot of different things. So trauma isn't always just PTSD. But so some symptoms that would be very, very common would be anger and rage. We see a lot in trauma and PTSD. Obviously, those nightmares or flashbacks. Flashbacks aren't always, they're visual, and I'm seeing like they see in the movies, right? They're back in that space. That's not always what a flashback is. Sometimes flashbacks could just be in your body, or they could be emotions as well. So those things that are just kind of sudden and they're just, they don't fit for what's going on around you at that point in time, that's a flashback. You have your nightmares, your insomnia. Other things are like avoidance, avoiding areas, avoiding people, avoiding large crowds is really common too. I'm trying to think some of the other more common symptoms where people are like, I didn't know. Panic attacks. having, shortness of breath and tightness in your chest, your heart starts racing, you're sweating, you're getting clammy, maybe you're getting pins and needles in your toes, your fingers, or your face. Those are all really common things that we see in clients who they'll come in, they think that it's just anxiety or that they maybe just have an anger issue, and then you start digging in deeper and you're like, okay, well, you have some trauma, so let's dig deeper. Let's see what these other symptoms are. Maybe it is PTSD, or maybe it has turned into something else, like borderline personality disorder or bipolar disorder, or one of the many other, mental health issues that we see.
Is there recognizing that or realizing it's PTSD just for the immediate care, for a self-care for someone maybe experiencing any of those avoidance, panic attacks, rage? Is there something like an easy trick that you would even just right now recommend to kind of calm someone down or be able to shift their focus or their train of thought so they can overcome that feeling in the moment right away to help them?
So there's a ton of stuff out there, and breathing obviously is the biggest one, but breathing can be a big trigger for people. One that I teach my clients a lot of the times is called box breathing, and it's actually a technique that's used by the Navy SEALs. So I love talking about and teaching this to my clients. So you would just imagine a box, or a square rather, and you would breathe in as for 4 seconds, and as you're breathing in, you're imagining that top line of drawing that top line of the square. And then you would hold your breath for another 4 seconds, and then you imagine drawing a line down from that top line in the square. And then you would breathe out for 4 seconds, and as you're doing that, you're just imagining that line going across. And then you wait until you breathe in again. So you're going to wait another 4 seconds, and you finish that square. So we call it box breathing because it's 4 seconds for each time. So you breathe for 4 seconds, hold it for 4 seconds, exhale for 4 seconds, and then you wait for 4 seconds before the next breath. So that's one that I really enjoy teaching my clients. Some of them really love it. For other people, it can be really triggering just because breathing techniques are triggering. But that would be the one off the top of my head right now that I would say, give it a try. If it works, that's awesome. And if not, I'm sure there's other things out there that are going to be just as effective.
Yeah, Carrie, talk a little bit about the word trigger and and what are triggers, or and how do you overcome a trigger?
Sure. So triggers could be anything, a person, place, or thing that just makes you feel some sort of way. So, for instance, let's take somebody who was in combat. A trigger for them could be loud noises. So let's say that they're, 4th of July is a big one for combat veterans. They hear all the fireworks. So that could be a trigger. And what a trigger does, it can bring on flashbacks. It can bring on a panic attack. It can bring on anger, rage. So what a trigger does is just makes it kind of makes your brain switch on, and you're very hypervigilant at that point in time. And what your brain is doing is saying danger, 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 not realizing that you are in fact safe. But your brain, that part of your brain that is in charge of trauma and survival, it doesn't know what day it is. It has no idea that it is now 2021 and it's not, 2005. It has no idea. So it's thinking danger, 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 and it's going to give you some type of reaction to keep you safe.
Yeah, very, very interesting and good, because I know my trigger, one of my triggers is I lost my brother to Agent Orange really badly, horribly. And so a lot of times just thinking him or we're eventually going to do a program on Agent Orange and the 22 million gallons they sprayed to destroy a lot of people's lives, both here and in Vietnam. And that's one of my triggers, unfortunately. But well, we're going to be taking off again for a little bit of our sponsor, then we'll come back for the last part of our show. We're here with Kenri Wanner. She is a mental health expert, helping a lot of people in the Sarasota, Manatee County area. And let's cut away to our break.
Roll Call will be right back after these messages.
My father was the best truck driver I've ever known in my life, like a family tradition.
I'm a truck driver myself. I drove around the state with my cat.
To be the truck driver, you not just only see where you go, you see the world in the larger perspective.
This is a really good time to be in the trucking industry. The dispatchers get good loads for them. The equipment is very new, and then it's very reliable.
At GTS Transportation, we make dreams come true by employing truck drivers, dispatchers, mechanics, and many other occupations. Consider joining our rapidly expanding team where we put quality, human dignity, and respect back into the workforce. Contact us by visiting our website at gtscarrier.com or call us at 847-754-4667. That number again, 847-754-4667.
Dallas Corporation and Dallas Logistics, a proud supporter of the Veterans Radio broadcast for over 15 years. High-quality printing services and warehouse distribution have been our hallmark since 1985, serving Fortune 100 companies for over 35 years. Check us out at www.dallascorp.com.
You're listening to Roll Call. Here's your host, Kenney DeCamp.
And welcome back to Roll Call here on the Veterans Broadcast Network. And I would just like to remind everybody while Nadine's doing her box breathing over here, I noticed, that General Dave's going to be back on with us soon. General Dave's going to launch the Veterans Radio Hour in November on Veterans Day even.
Oh, wow.
That's going to be something, you'll be hearing more about that, and stay tuned because he is a master on the radio, I'll tell you. And this man knows so much, and I learned so much from him, and it's going to be a great program. We used to do a show together about 18 years ago, and that's how we got to be friends. Are you done breathing?
I think so. I kind of got distracted, though, because I'm like, why do the Navy SEALs need box breathing? Carrie, have you heard, like, what the source of that is or why that is a thing? Is it because they're going underwater, or where did that come from?
So box breathing actually helps you focus. So Navy SEALs will use this technique before they go onto a mission, because as we know, going into a mission, especially one that could be potentially life-threatening or dangerous, you get something called tunnel vision. So they use this technique to help them stay focused so they don't get that tunnel vision. They're able to do the mission. They're able to do it well.
Well, there you go. Now that makes sense. A little bit more oxygen to the brain as well. So that is pretty cool. Kenney, you look like you have something you want to say.
Well, I'm just trying to understand more about how somebody with a mental health complication can get more involved with people like Carrie.
Mm-hmm.
If the VA is so overcrowded, or I know that when I see my counselor, she tells me that they're so backlogged, and also because they don't have enough people. I mean, right now, and in the VA, you would think that we would be able to have so many people. Carrie, any idea how you think we might be able to incorporate people like yourselves without having that special college credentialed stamp?
I would say we need to, what I would love to do is to lobby to TRICARE and let them know, hey, you know what, just because these individuals don't have this accreditation, which is called KCREP, doesn't mean that they are not as qualified, if not more qualified than individuals who do have this thing. Let TRICARE know there are people out there that really want to help veterans. A lot of veterans themselves, like me, who just either didn't know that, wherever they moved to was going to need this. I went to school in Maryland. Maryland, you didn't need to take CREP to become a mental health counselor. In Florida, you did. In TRICARE, when I was halfway through my schooling, that's when they brought their rule out that you had to have it, and I wasn't able to, transfer credits or anything. But let me get off my soapbox on that. So one thing is, talking to TRICARE, getting out there and letting know the VA and even just the military, DOD in general, hey, there's thousands of people that you're missing out on this opportunity that want to come in and help. If you're so for mental health and you really want to help these people, prove it. Show me that you want to, right? Other ways to do it would be, maybe the VA does come up with, those PACT programs and allows civilians, outside of the VA to contract with them. Hey, if I can't get to you, you've got a 30-day wait, or you have some veterans are waiting 90 days to see mental health counselors, just to see a psychiatrist, and that's a 30-minute quick interview just so the VA can shove meds down your throat. It's not even a therapy session. So, the VA really needs to come up with something where they can start bringing on these counselors that are on the outside. If you're looking to not go to the VA, if you are in the Sarasota or Manatee County areas, definitely check out Operation Rubix. It's through srqvet.com, and you'll be able to find their information through there. If you're not in this area, go onto Google, find some nonprofits in your area. I'm gonna bet that there's some really good ones out there that do kind of the same thing as Operation Rubix. And there may be even some retreats for mental health out there as well. Another thing to do is...
Yeah, would you think that some of the VSOs, American Legion, VFW, do you think they're connected with any of people that mental health and guidance?
If they're not, they should be. I know for me, I've gone to all of my Legion, my VFW, everybody. I've introduced myself. I've let them know who I am. If they know people, send them to me. I've given out my business cards. So they should. However, they may not. I don't know if other counselors are going to them in their areas. I would hope that they are, and letting them know. Another good way to find mental health professionals, though, is going on to, it's called psychologytoday.com. And the great thing about Psychology Today is you can filter to find the therapist that's in your area that maybe takes TRICARE or that maybe specializes in veterans and so forth. So that's another way to help find a therapist that could be in your area, especially if you can't get into the VA, because there is a long wait. And I know with COVID, when they were closed, they weren't helping anybody really. They were sending people away. Sometimes they were doing telehealth, sometimes they weren't. So speaking of COVID and also these things being closed down, is there another way, even in the transitionary period, other things that can help? Or maybe someone might not be ready to go to a mental health counselor. Is there any other things that you would suggest? Top of mind for me comes to camaraderie, talking to people, or just shooting a text to a friend or a family member to kind of get you out of that funk. Is there anything that you would suggest as well, kind of in that similar idea? Absolutely. As soon as you said that, I thought right away about my battle buddy. Reach out to your wingman, your battle buddy, and your shipmates, right? And just reach out to them. Let them know, hey, you know what, I'm struggling. Whatever it is. Have that support system. If you don't have that support system, go to your VFW, go to your American Legion, go to these different areas, your Marine Corps bunkers, whatever. You're going to have a support system there. Reach out to your brothers and sisters in arms, because we're going to take care of each other. Because we know, if we don't take care of each other, nobody else is.
It's interesting. The Pew Research in March of 2019, they did a survey, and 72%, that's a very high number, of adults, my throat.
I'm joking him right now, everybody that's listening.
No. 72% of adults and an identical number of Republicans and Democrats said that if they were making the federal budget, they would definitely increase spending for veterans benefits.
Yeah, and that would be, I think, one of the biggest things that they can do. But
and by doing that, we're enlarging the VA, and we're going to be helping more people, and we'll be denying less, because I've also heard, the VA denies 80% of claims initially and an appeal. Well, this has been a great show. I've enjoyed talking with you, Kerri. I look forward to meeting you here in the Sarasota area. Any last words you'd like to tell some of our friends?
Thank you so much for having me on the show. I am going to throw out, my website real quick if anybody wants to check it out. It's Harmonia Wellness, MHC.com. That's Harmonia, HARMONIA, Wellness, WELLNESS, M for mental, H for health, C for counseling.com. It was really a pleasure to talk to y'all. This is something that is really, truly near and dear to my heart, is working with this population and working with trauma. So it was really nice to be able to talk to y'all about it and put a little bit of information out there.
Yeah, I would just like to say that on behalf of Kenney and I, we definitely appreciate you being here and the work that you're doing for veterans, and just the wealth of knowledge that you have, and not giving up, even in spite of not having the ability to go to the VA, but finding places like Operation Rubik's where you can contribute and making it your mission to help other veterans. So thank you on behalf of us and all veterans for doing the work that you're doing.
Thank you, Kerri.
Thanks.
And we'll be seeing you real soon. Thanks to everybody for listening along. Another idea you might want to know about is the veterans and their families that share stories about strength and recovery, sort of between my show and Patrick's show, Wounded But Not Broken. And it's called, and it's a VA project. It's MakeTheConnection.net. And it sort of helps a lot of different people to make that connection and the camaraderie you were talking about, Nadine, about having to be more connected with a lot more people that help you out is the best thing. Don't try to think you can do it by yourself. And then you always have the VA. Everybody hears it when they call the VA, and that's your Veterans Crisis Line. So it's something important that you can go to it at veteranscrisisline.net, or it's 800-273-8255. And then they tell you to press 1, and they'll have somebody talking to you right off the bat. I know that can be very helpful for a lot of people, who, especially those that have come to the loneliest time of their life and looking back at yesterday, trying to understand tomorrow.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yep. And help for veterans and their families to find safe and stable housing. That's also there, 877-424-3838. I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight, and we look forward to Patrick's show tomorrow night. Remember, that is Central Time, I believe 5 o'clock. I'll have to look again. And Wounded But Not Broken, just remember to go to veteransradiohour.com. You'll see our entire National Institute for Veterans website. You'll see some of the projects that we're involved with. We're also looking into doing a rehab center very soon. We have a lobbying group, and then we also have that special software program for you to understand more of what your disability claim is and what disabilities might be there because of, like my friend Lenny on an aircraft carrier with these planes taking off and everything. He's lost quite a bit of his hearing, and unfortunately he was denied tinnitus and hearing loss. Anyway, the best to everybody out there. Make life good. Nadine, thank you for joining me, and thank Kerri as well.
Yeah, thank you, and everybody have a great week.
Until next Sunday, This is Roll Call on the Veterans Broadcast Network.
Thanks for listening. Join us every Sunday at 5 p.m. Central. On the Veterans Broadcast Network, this is Roll Call.
My father was the best truck driver I've ever known in my life, like a family tradition.
I'm a truck driver myself. I drove around the States with my cat.
To be the truck driver, you not just only see where you go, you see the world in the larger perspective.
This is a really good time to be in the trucking industry. The dispatchers get good loads for them. The equipment is very new, and then it's very reliable.
At GTS Transportation, we make dreams come true by employing truck drivers, dispatchers, mechanics, and many other occupations. Consider joining our rapidly expanding team where we put quality, human dignity, and respect back into the workforce. Contact us by visiting our website at gtscarrier.com or call us at 847-754-4667. That number again, 847-754-4667.
Dallas Corporation and Dallas Logistics, a proud supporter of the Veterans Radio broadcast for over 15 years. High-quality printing services and warehouse distribution have been our hallmark since 1985, serving Fortune 100 companies for over 35 years. Check us out at www.dallascorp.com.